But using that frame does immediately get people riled up. You've got a matchbox ready to explode at any moment based upon what this verdict is going to be.
One of the greatest fears that a lot of us have with this trial is if Chauvin, and it could be justice that he is given a murder charge. It could be justice that he's let off and he's acquitted. But if he is acquitted and if justice is served in that way, there are going to be riots destroying cities probably across the nation. I mean, I imagine it would be at least somewhat similar to what we saw last year.
From the death itself.
Yes. And largely, this problem, I think, has been set up by the media because the media keeps portraying this as a cut and dry case, as George Floyd was clearly murdered, when really there's a lot of gray here. And anyone that watches that video, it's pretty horrific. And the officer really seems like he's going above and beyond what he's supposed to do, and he's, it just seems inhumane. But the reality is that the situation is much more complicated than that. And the media has not communicated that to people. And so if Chauvin is acquitted, people are going to think this is a gross injustice and there's just going to be mayhem. So do you guys think that the media have kind of set up this sort of a problem happening if Chauvin is to be acquitted?
I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, from a year ago now, when the case was initially, created with the incident, we have seen that the conversation of this being a gross injustice, this being a racially motivated, hate crime-esque murder of a day-to-day citizen by a police officer. I mean, you start with that narrative, and there's no way that you can't, if you carry that on for a year as they've done, actually result in anything other than a guilty verdict being riots and uprisings, because you have established this frame where everything that passes through it must be a result of this racist framework that has been laid out by the left with regard to this case. And it's incredibly disappointing because, as you said, Michael, I mean, this has been an incredibly back and forth case. It's one of the few times where I'm actually I favor the fact that social media is being used as a method for getting information out, because, every couple hours we're seeing kind of a back and forth. And so hopefully people who are keyed in well enough to the narrative and to what's going on in the news cycle may see the back and forth push and meet some arguments that they haven't faced yet. Unfortunately, that back and forth kind of volleying with the defense and the prosecution, it is going to be drowned out by the fact that the mainstream media will call any not guilty verdict racist, and this will be an injustice of allowing a racist to walk free. Of course, none of these cases in the last several years, no matter how much they bring this issue up, none of these cases, even if it was and in some of my in some of these cases, my opinion would be that the officers acted improperly and probably did deserve perhaps a manslaughter charge. They have not in any of these cases proven an actual racist motive that they've discussed for several years now, or several decades now, and they never prove it. But using that frame does immediately get people riled up. You've got a matchbox ready to explode at any moment based upon what this verdict is going to be.